morning and welcome to Early Exchange with Vivian Oguche, Femi Ayodele, Sam Oruwoje, and Idahosa Osamanze.
Sustain that industry. So if government does not have much money, they should find an enabling environment.
Now, what are these issues? The petrol is still imported because local refineries are not working.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Good morning and welcome to Independent Special Broadcast, reaching you live from Souk News, all the way from our studio in Lagos. It's a special day and it's a special broadcast today. It's a special day, it's an historical day. Yesterday, Nigeria celebrated its 63rd independence anniversary. Wow, Nigerians are glad and I'm sure you're excited for us. The celebration is still ongoing and we'll continue the celebration today. You can see my attire. I'm looking like a proper Nigerian. This is just to celebrate. I'm not just the only one looking this way. Even the crew, every member of production today, they have to represent Nigeria because it's a special broadcast. Yesterday, the president had a speech to encourage Nigerians. We're going to look at that, and then we'll look at the journey so far, and then what is expected of Nigerians as we celebrate. We hope that as we celebrate and as we spend the next 3 hours with Souk News, you'll get the best of programming as we prepare to inform you and educate you. Now, let's set the ball rolling with news updates. Blessing is standing by with our own special attire to you. Blessing, up to you now. Good morning, and how are you today?
I'm very well, Femi. Thank you, and happy independence to you. Good morning. Thank you for joining me on the morning news update. I am Blessing Aichi. We're still basking in the euphoria of Nigeria's 63rd independence, and so I say happy independence anniversary to Nigeria and all Nigerians to bring you stories about independence and current happenings around the globe after this break. So stay tuned. Thank you for staying tuned. Certainly, our first story begins from Nigeria. You can guess why, because it's Nigeria's 63rd independence anniversary. And so, in commemoration of Nigeria's 63rd independence anniversary, President Bola Tinubu has reaffirmed his commitments to reshaping the economy and ensure the safety and prosperity of the people while addressing the nation in a nationwide broadcast. The president acknowledged the hardships caused by the various reforms, but stressed the necessity for enduring these challenges to achieve a future where wealth is equitably shared and poverty is eradicated. He reaffirmed the significance of monetary policy reform and fair tax policies for economic growth, as well as increased support for enterprises and employment opportunities. Similarly, the federal government has announced a 35,000 naira provisional wage award for Treasury-paid federal workers for the next 6 months. However, in a new development on Sunday night, the president, through his chief of staff, Femi Gbajabiamila, said the salary increment, which now cuts across all levels of workers, has been increased to 35,000 naira. This comes amid the government's efforts to avoid nationwide strike and declared by the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, and Trade Union Congress. And away from that, in order to promote the growth of information technology and enhance productivity in the country, the federal government and ALAT has launched Skill Innovation Program to equip over 3 million Nigerians with essential digital skills needed to thrive in the global economy. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who disclosed this during the program's launch at the presidential villa in Abuja, described skill innovation as a transformative initiative that empowers Nigerians through digital empowerment. He emphasized the importance of digital skills in today's rapidly evolving business environment and assured the nation of President Bola Tinubu's commitment to supporting small businesses. Now, in a bid to facilitate the movement of agricultural goods across the 18 local governments of Ondo State, the state government is set to construct 700 kilometers of rural roads in agrarian communities. This was announced by the special advisor to the Ondo State Governor, Babatunde Kolawole. Speaking during a media chat in Akure, Kolawole revealed that these roads, funded with about 2 billion naira, will be awarded to reputable contractors. He also stated that the government plans to establish international standard agro-logistic hubs in all 18 local government areas, which will increase farmers' income and reduce waste in the supply chain. And we move now to Niger State in Nigeria, where thousands of Nigerians have assembled at France's Niamey military base to mark the departure of the Paris ambassador, Sylvain Litt, prompted by the military junta's eviction order approximately a month ago. The country's focus has now shifted to France's commitment to withdraw approximately 1,500 soldiers from Niger by the end of the year in order to reduce Paris' influence within the country. France has maintained a presence of soldiers in Niger as part of an anti-jihadist mission in the region, while the new regime in Niger is deliberately on the shape of its future relations with Paris, with the ultimate decision to be determined by the will of the Nigerian people. Moving out to Libya. After nearly a decade of suspension prompted by a European Union ban, flights between Libya and Italy has resumed operations. According to reports, a total of 25 passengers embarked on Saturday's flight facilitated by Libya's Metsky Airways, which inaugurated a twice-weekly direct route to the Italian capital, Rome, signifying a resumption of flight connections between the two countries. Since 2014, the European Union had imposed a flight ban on Libyan airlines and barred them from entering a member state's airspace during a period of intense conflict within Libya. The UN-recognized government of Libya announced that the resumption of flights represents a crucial component of their concerted government initiatives aimed at lifting the European ban on Libyan civil aviation. Let's take a quick break and return to bring you more stories. Stay tuned. Thanks for being there. Now to the United Arab Emirates UAE ADIPEC 2023, an exhibition which will bring together the international energy sector to accelerate the process of decarbonizing the current energy infrastructure and fostering collaboration for the future energy systems, is set to take place in Dubai. The event, which sponsored by President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan and hosted by ADNOC, will take place at the Abu Dhabi National Exhibition Center, ADNEC, from Monday to Thursday, focusing on the theme of decarbonizing faster together, with a lineup featuring over 1,600 speakers, including 40 ministers and 120 top executives from regions spanning the Middle East, Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas. ADIPEC 2023 is set to host over 350 conference sessions, engaging with over 15,000 delegates to enhance strategies and forward-thinking concepts aimed at expediting collective and responsible measures to safeguard the future of energy. Moving away from that, opposition candidate Mohamed Muizur has secured victory in the Maldives presidential election, defeating incumbent President Ibrahim Soli in the second-round runoff, potentially signaling a shift towards closer ties with China. The Maldives Electoral Commission, having almost completed the vote count, reported on its website that Mohamed Muizu secured 54% of the ballots in Saturday's election, while incumbent President Ibrahim Soli received 46%. President Ibrahim Soli, known for advocating an Indian-first policy during his tenure, will continue serving as president until the inauguration of Mohamed Muizu on November 17th. Apple has announced that it has identified several factors, including a bug in the iOS 17 software, which can lead to new iPhones running at higher temperatures than anticipated, assuring users that this issue will be resolved in an upcoming software update. This move, which is in response to customer complaints about the new phones running noticeably warm, will occur during the first few days after setting up or restoring the device, which is due to background activity. Apple has also announced a third-party applications such as Asphalt 9, Meta's Instagram, and Uber as contributors to the iPhone's overheating issue, with Instagram having already addressed and resolved the problem in its app. Turning now to Europe, where European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has stressed Ukraine's need for increased military assistance and pledged continued support from the EU. In a statement shared on the platform X, formerly known as Twitter, Brussels stressed Ukraine's urgent requirement for enhanced military capabilities and a quicker acquisition process, while the European Defence Agency, in response to recent inquiries, disclosed that 7 EU nations had placed orders for ammunition through a procurement initiative to expedite the delivery of much-needed artillery shells to Ukraine and replenish dwindling Western inventories. The chairman of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Ben Cardin, has issued a stern warning declaring his intention to obstruct military aid and arms sales to Egypt unless concrete measures are taken to enhance human rights within the nation. The announcement followed a request by U.S. Representative Foreign Affairs Committee Gregory Meeks to pause a portion of military aid to Egypt based on human rights conditions. The increased pressure comes in the wake of Democratic Senator Bob Menendez, then chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, being federally indicted on September 22, partly on charges related to accepting bribes to assist Egypt's government. The story from the U.S. brings the morning news update to an end. Thank you for watching. I am Blessing AG. Please take this advice. Stay for the rest of Early Exchange. It promises to be a wild show. You can thank me later. Good morning.
environment.
Now, what are these issues? The petrol is still imported because local refineries are not working.
Does it stop at giving a directive? What should be done to ensure that this is done?
One of the factors being identified by our key persons is the issue of transportation. For you to have a sustainable city, you must have a deliberate attempt to have a master plan.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Glad to have you join us on this special Independence Day broadcast. You know, it's a special one. From the way my analysts are looking today, you know, it's a special one. Now it's time for us to do news analysis, for us to review all the news headlines, you know, trending today. Most importantly, the president's speech, and I've been joined by Sam Oruwuje. Sam, glad to have you join us on this special broadcast. Happy Independence.
Femi, thank you. Happy Independence.
Blessing.
Yes, my fellow Nigerians.
You look like what we call Lolo. You know what we call Lolo?
Yes, sir, because it's a promotion for Nigeria, having seen the 63rd anniversary of its independence. So later I will be coronated as the chief of the new renewed hope city.
That's
so I invite you.
Great.
I use this
no, I'm here already.
to invite you for my coronation. You can see I'm wearing the crown already.
That's great. That's colorful. What a good day. You know, it's our independence celebration and a special one. So everybody is
like
excited.
National Owambe.
Yeah, that's great. Another reunion for Nigerians home and abroad. That's great, Sam. All right, let's start with the news from the chief celebrant, who is the president. He's the chief celebrant for today. And in commemoration of Nigeria's 63rd independence anniversary, President Tinubu has reaffirmed his commitment to reshaping the economy and ensure safety and prosperity of the people. You know, yesterday, the president delivered his independence speech. And one of the things he talked about is the economy. You know, he had to make a promise that he's doing everything possible to reshape the economy. Honestly, I don't envy the president. If you look at the state of the economy at this time, oh my God, you know, we need someone like him exactly to fix things, and he has to reaffirm his commitment to ensure that he would do his best to reshape the economy, and he made that promise yesterday. You know, one important thing about leadership is communication. And if you can communicate with your followers, with your team members, it brings hope. And in respect to his manifesto, renewed hope. So he's speaking forth now to tell us that he's ready to do everything to you know, resuscitate the economy. You know, we have inflationary rate at the rate of 28.05%. As the figure released in August by the Nigeria Bureau of Statistics, and that's not too good, you know.
It's not good, not even too good. It's not good at all.
You know, looking at the prices of goods and services, that's why I said I don't envy the president. Sam, what do you think?
I think the independence speech is very reassuring, and like you underscore, the role of leadership is to inspire people. I think the various comments, what is particularly gratifying for me is commitment to rework the social register, moving it to 15 million vulnerable group to be added to that social register. I think that to a very large extent we help in addressing some of the pain that Nigerians are going through. In its commitment in terms of cleaning up the central bank, may well help to see how the rate of inflation and monetary policies will drive economic growth and bring some prosperity to Nigerians. By and large, I think it's welcoming, inspiring, and is a promise for renewed hope, become more sustainable with some of the promises made.
You see, the president acknowledged the hardship caused by various reforms, but stressed the necessity for enduring these challenges, you know. He's asking Nigerians to endure. Do you think Nigeria should take that route?
Yeah, what is important is that, like you said, once leaders are able to communicate, essentially, that means there's hope. And that commitment made by the president, Nigerians should find a way to support this administration. But what is key, in addition to that, is that those in leadership must equally show example by showing that those challenges are equally in a way that leaders show that kind of commitment in the way they live as well, in the way they spend money, government money as well. So that we balance that kind of views. When you ask people they should bear with the government, then the government, in its own respect, should show some discipline in the way they conduct themselves as they run state affairs.
How much can Nigeria bear with the exchange rate of naira to dollar almost over? It's over 1,000 naira. How much can Nigeria bear? We've been doing this for 63 years.
Yes. On the other hand, I think Nigerians too had to look inward as a collective, as a people. Our consumption for foreign goods is challenging. So for us to be productive, we need to buy made in Nigerian good, and that we reduce the impact or the dependence on the foreign exchange. Again, the government too must support small and medium enterprise so that they can upscale their services, and at the end of the day, then the pressure on the forest will reduce.
Yes, I like the fact that the president has talked about paying attention to monetary policy reform and fair tax policies for economic growth. And so we're hoping that the CBN will key into that to try to address certain monetary policy reforms that will help the economy. And so we're looking at the CBN to find a way to address the exchange rate. You know, at the time, the CBN was doing some form of intervention, injecting forex into the economy, but that didn't really work. I don't know what measure the CBN will come up with at this point in time to address the exchange rate. Because it does somehow seem like allowing the naira to float, though the president alluded to the hardships that have been caused by various reforms, but he also mentioned that there are necessity. So I think it's now left for the economic team to go back and reevaluate the measures and see if there are things that can be somehow tweaked for us to have a better economy. Because like you just mentioned, how long can Nigerians bear with an exchange rate of over 1,000 naira to the dollar? Because major things that we consume are imported. Yes, Nigerians a lot of times want to patronize made in Nigerian goods when they are available and of equal standard with the imported ones. But where some of the industries that would have been competing with the companies that manufacture these imported goods do not have the necessary infrastructure to encourage manufacturing of this product. Some of them, what they do is just merely assembling. So it's really a challenge. We hope to see better days, though.
Yeah, better days. We hope to see better days soon. All right, let's move on. Similarly, the federal government has announced a 35,000 provisional wage for Treasury-paid federal workers for the next 6 months. Recall earlier in his independence speech, the president announced 25,000 naira for low-grade workers, adding that it's part of his effort to provide cushion for the effect of fuel subsidy removal. Now, the twist to this story is, you know, when the president made his speech yesterday, that was in the morning, he announced 25,000 naira increase for low-grade federal workers. And, you know, that triggered a lot of reactions on Twitter, on social media, and Nigerians were reacting that this thing should cut across. Why are you being selective? And the president, to show that he's a listening president, and through the intervention of the chief of staff, which is Femi Gbajabiamila, had another meeting, which was yesterday night. And then they released another press release showing that the increase is for all workers. You know, initially it was meant for low-grade workers, you know, but later you have an, so it means it cuts across to all workers now. How do you feel, Sam?
I think it's a welcome development that the president has increased salaries of civil servants and public servants across board. So it's a welcome development, and this will be a kind of cushioning effect on the part of the removal of subsidy. And again, that will help to forestall the inflationary rate that has eaten deep into their earnings. So what is important, whether there was a gap in the communication earlier yesterday, and later there was an announcement that cut across all sectors. I'm sure that there must have been a slip in when the speech was put together. But what is important is that there's an increment in the salaries of workers across board. So I think that's sharing news, and I think that will help to motivate the workforce to put in their best to achieve greater productivity.
Interestingly, the Nigerian Labour Congress seemed not to be comfortable with the development. The strike being scheduled as at now, the information is they might still go ahead. Yesterday, they were having discussion. I learned there was another meeting at the presidential villa between the representatives of the labor movement and that of the government, where discussion was ongoing, looking at the possibility of increasing it, you know. But do you think with this now, it will bring respite and, you know, help the plight of Nigerian workers?
Personally, I think I have issues with the labor movement. I think we should be more strategic in the engagement we have with the government. Strikes, even though it's part of industrial relation issues, but the recourse to strike is becoming too frequent. I think we can do more meaningful dialogue with a view to helping Nigerians. The people are already impoverished, so when you put a strike, to what extent can they earn a living, particularly in the informal sector, which is a bigger level of sector. But I think they can discuss with the government further and see how they can use a backdoor communication strategy to achieve a better result for the masses. Strikes are becoming too many options. They should be more creative in their engagement dialogue. That's my personal view. I think that will produce a better result. With this little increment so far, that's a sign that the government is willing to dialogue with them. So I think they should share that strike option, in my personal view.
But you know, they've been having series of negotiations, series of talks, you know, they just feel the best way, maybe in this climate, one of the languages government understand is the issue of strike, maybe to show that they are working. Do you think Labour has any choice apart from strike action?
I think they have a choice. I think labor relation or industrial relation has become more dynamic to a very large extent. Strike is just one of the options. So dialogue is the way to go. You can resolve conflicts with dialogue. Why strike is legitimate as a labor relation strategy, but the issue of a strike does not really resolve the problem. Maybe they call out a strike, after 2-3 days, there's a high level of agreement between government and labor, then they call out the strike. I think the window of negotiation should be exploited to its fullness. That's my view.
It's a culture that has been learned over time because labor unions and other associations over time have learned that the only way you push government to do your bidding or to do what the association of workers need government to do is when they embark on industrial action. So to unlearn that would take a lot of time, and it would take government showing that they respond to dialogue. When government doesn't respond to dialogue, then we'll keep seeing that labor union, workers union, other different groups will want to engage in industrial actions. But I think that this particular one that Labour intends to embark on, there is no need for it anymore, because the essence of it was to force the hand of government to address the wage issue, which government has done. It may not be as Labour wanted, but is there any way or is there any time that Labour would have gone on a strike and government would give them exactly what they want? So I think meeting halfway is something, and then they can progress on that with some dialogue. So there is no need downing tools. If you want to down tools or you want to fight, and the man you want to fight has come up to you to meet you in your house to say, okay, let's make peace, I think that should count for something.
All right. The other leg to the story is the cash transfer to 15 million poor Nigerians. And there's this concern then, how will you determine who is poor? You know, there's this concern about this social register. If you had to say, okay, there will be a direct cash transfer to 15 million Nigerians, how do you determine who should benefit from this? Sam, how do you see that?
Well, there's always 2 points to this conversation. But what is important is that there are determinants how you address a vulnerable group in society. And there's a universal concept on how you aggregate data for the very poor in society. But the politics of it has always been there. For me, 15 million vulnerable people for cash transfer. There are places, particularly in Brazil, when cash transfer have become very successful. I'm sure there are ways at which those who are responsible for social intervention are able to aggregate those data. But to what extent can this benefit 15 million vulnerable group should be what the conversation is about. But I know there's an agency of government that is responsible beyond the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs that collates the register. Then I think what is key going forward is the ministry should be more transparent on the list of a vulnerable group in society. Civil society must up their game in terms of the advocacy to see whether the 15 million Nigerians that is being targeted actually get those conditional cash transfers.
It's just a very hopeful situation, or a situation where people are hoping that, yes, those who really need everybody needs the money. So I wouldn't say those who really need the money, because while we may say the vulnerable, everyone is vulnerable in a certain way. Because there are people who used to drive cars and used to get wherever they want to go to using their car, but now they do public transportation. So in that aspect, they are vulnerable. But to the very vulnerable, I do hope that they are identified really, whether it to be their income level or their bank accounts balance that will be used to determine how vulnerable they are. I do not know. But we should also understand that a lot of this category of people are not even captured in the formal banking system. So it's going to be challenging, and sentiment, of course, will come into it. We will have certain kinds of sentiments color these things, but we're hoping that it's not going to be to the extent where a lot of the persons who need this money would not get them. Then for the cushioning measures, I think that the government should also look at the private sector, because the focus is on those in public service, it's on certain sectors, but the private sector should also get some form of relief, and we're hoping everything goes well. Like I said, it's a thing of hope, because we don't really have the data to drive the process.
That's interesting. Now let's take the train of our news analysis to the African continent, and this time around we're going to Niger. We're looking at the unrest in that country due to the military coup that has taken place. Now the latest news is the eviction of the French troops, and which, according to the instruction by the military ruler, that he has given them ultimatum, for them to leave that country. It seems to me that the military head is trying to, take control of that city, to weighing down the influence of the French authority. Sam, what do you think? What's happening in Niger?
Well, in the realm of international politics, that's what you call selective morality. If France has overbearing interference in the affairs of Niger, and now the military junta are trying to respond in a way that they don't want the France to have influence in their environment. I think that's within the right of the government of Niger to do to protect their sovereignty. So the issue is neither here nor there, in my view. So within international politics, French may be blowing some hot air because Niger military junta revised some of the policy which has not been favorable to the country, particularly the pricing of uranium that over the years was priced below X amount of euro, and that they revised the price regime, and there's a breach in international relations between France and Niger. So I think this is not a really big issue. So I think things will sort themselves out naturally, in my view.
Do you think any military intervention will make things better?
Well, the tradition is that the military does not have a place in governance. But then when you continue to have strong men in institutions that are not responsive to the aspiration, the option, not that I support military coup per se, but then political leadership must be alive to their responsibility to the extent that the dividends of democracy, as we call it in Africa, gets to the people. So good governance is the key. So when people are able to govern well and they can impart their citizens, military juntas will not have a place. So once the citizens appreciate those that are in leadership, as long as they are able to deliver value for citizens, then who really care whether it is military or strong men who are leaders, particularly in Africa, who don't want to leave, who see leadership as their political leadership, rather, as their birthright. So to some extent, some scholars are saying that the resurgence of military in African policy is a kind of a call for failures of political leaders, strong men, to provide the real leadership.
All right, a call to political leaders to rise up to responsibility. We hope that the kind of independence and the peace of mind that we are having in Nigeria will be extended to Niger. I think on that note, we can wrap up our news analysis. Sam, thank you so much for joining us on this segment.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll go on a short break now, and when we return, the proper discussion will start. Stay with us.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
It's still Independence Special, reaching you live from Souk News. We've had the best and we'll always keep giving you the best. Now, our discussion today, we're looking at the journey so far for Nigeria. It's been 63 years. How far has it been for Nigeria? To shed more light on this, we are still having Sam Oruwujo with us in the studio. Sam, Sam, don't mind me, I'm too excited. Sam, glad to have you join us once again.
My pleasure, Femi.
All right.
And blessing.
You know, Nigerians celebrated 63 years ago when the independence was declared. You know, a representative of the Queen of England. You know, we have King of England now. Then it was Queen of England, a representative who declared the independence. Nigerians were excited. Nigerians were happy. But may I ask, 63 years after, are Nigerians still happy or celebrating?
Well, there's always a need to celebrate in spite of the challenge. Nation building or nationhood is full of bumps here and there. So there's a need to celebrate. The challenges has been there, but how do we move away from those challenges to a prosperous nation that our forefather envisioned for the country, particularly towards independence. 63 years, yes. As a nation, we are full-grown adults, but those challenges will always be there. Every nation, even the United States of America that we mirror, still have its own challenge. What is key is that leaders should focus on resolving these challenges so that we can build a prosperous nation.
All right, let's look at how it has been over the last 63 years. So how has the ethnic and regional issues that Nigeria is still dealing with, as it's impacted the political and social landscape in Nigeria over the last 63 years, and how has it affected development?
Ethnicity, religion is one of the major national questions that has impacted on the aspiration of nationhood. But I think what is key, that ethnicity may not help us to get to the destination that we desire. So therefore, my plea for Nigeria and Nigerians at 63 is that we may have ethnic identities. That's notwithstanding, but a nation or a Nigerian state that everybody can prosper should be the order of the day, and our aspiration should see, first and foremost, to see ourselves as a nation beyond our ethnic identity. So ethnicity is one of the major national questions, but then we need to move away from the challenge of trying to operate within our ethnic identity. These are inimical to nation building and national progress. So therefore, Nigerians should find a way to move away from their ethnic identity. Even the politics over the years has been ethnic politics. So to what extent can we galvanize Nigerian as a collective or as a people to look at Nigeria as one country where everybody can aspire to the best that it can be within the country?
There are people who still argue or still feel Nigeria wasn't ready for independence when Nigeria got it. Let me refer you to the popular speech by Tafawa Balewa, where he said, you know, I promise you we shall not fail for want of determination, and we come to this task better equipped than many. In variance to his, submission, his argument, there are some Nigerians still believe that as at the time Nigeria got independence, Nigeria wasn't ready, our leaders weren't ready, against the belief of Tafawa Balewa. What do you think, in respect to what he just said?
With the benefit of hindsight, I think whether we got it right, whether it was too early, is a subject of debate. But what is key, in my view, is that even if we're not ready, as some Nigerians claim that we're not ready for independence, now that we had independence by 1960, what were the key issues that should have inspired nation building? I think the conversation will have been, yes, we may not have been prepared for independence, but when we got independence, what did we do with independence? How were we able to forge a kind of national identity that supports nation building. On the other hand, what are the key impediments that were on the way towards building a nation? So I think those were the core elements that those who were there at independence should have dealt with essentially. But if you look at it from the perspective of state formation, the way a nation evolved and the challenges that we spoke to earlier, but what was key was the leadership to have piloted a kind of nationalism that was collective for national progress. So I think those are the conversations that we should have now, rather than whether it was ill-prepared, whether the leaders didn't even understand what they were fighting for. But then, this is 63 years after. I think we should not be looking at the core challenges that were like impediment to nation building.
All right, still on that line, some persons also feel that Nigeria should not be together, like the regions should not be bound together, and that the decision was made for Nigeria, made on Nigeria's behalf by Lord Lugard in 1914. Let's look at the impact of the Biafra Civil War. How has it impacted Nigeria's identity and unity? Because even until recently, we still had the call for secession.
All right. In my personal view, this is 53 years after the Civil War. I think in terms of the core concept after the Civil War as espoused by General Gowon of reconciliation, rehabilitation, and where's the other R, if I remember, I put it there. I think the Igbos, in my view, politically, has not really been integrated into the nation. That again is sustained by the mutual suspicion among the various ethnic groups that make up Nigeria. But the lessons of the Civil War is what is important, that we must live as a people in harmony. Then the Igbos, on the other hand, must find a way to integrate themselves politically rather than making effort to secede from the country. Those secession clamor does not really represent the true aspiration of the Igbos, if you like. Just a segment of those people that clamor to leave the nation state called Nigeria. But I think it's better that we are together as a nation. What is key is that leadership must equally find a way to pull everybody in one direction so that the call for ethnic divisions will reduce minimally. Then political leadership, good governance, and clear political identity must be unifying so that everybody see the nation as one and we have a common aspiration to forge an identity that becomes truly Nigeria.
Let's look at the vision of the founding fathers. You know, you had Obafemi Awolowo, you had Nnamdi Azikiwe, Tafawa Balewa. You know, they had the vision, which was for Nigeria to be in unity. They had that oneness. But would you say 63 years after, the visions of the founding fathers have been achieved?
To a very large extent, yes. On the other hand, no, because even some of the leaders that we call national leaders, as they were equally ethnic leaders to a very large extent. If you read some of the literatures in state formation, you'll find out that even some of the leaders to a very large extent were parochial in terms of the way they play politics. But by and large, even if leaders made some mistake during the state formation, from independence year to the current state, what is key? To what extent can we drive an identity that is really truly national? The founding fathers may have done their best. Some of the values and some of the inspiration they provided for must be sustained in a manner that will sustain national progress, national unity.
All right, talking about the ethnic diversity of Nigeria. Nigeria has a very rich culture. If you go to check the different tribes, they all have their different culture in Nigeria. To what extent has Nigeria leveraged that in the arts and entertainment space for economic gains?
All right, in terms of cultural identity and drama for development, theater and all that, I think that has been exploited to the benefit. And in that regard, you have various producers who represent that cultural diversity to extent that it has helped to inspire nation building, in my view.
All right, let's look outside of Nigeria now, but still talking about Nigeria. Nigeria has always been seen as the big brother in Africa. So over the years, how has Nigeria's role playing the big brother to the region? How has it been? Is it still as huge as it used to be?
Well, Nigeria has always played the role of a big brother, simply called the giant of Africa, if you like. But then, from a foreign policy perspective, Africa has always been the major player in terms of foreign policy. In terms of the benefit for the domestic economy, there's so much to be desired from that respect. In terms of playing a big brother role, particularly in West Africa, Nigeria has done that very well within Africa. But to what extent does this foreign policy objective benefit the domestic policy? I think it's a subject of critical debate. But by and large, we're going to play a role in Africa as a big brother. But then the benefit of being a big brother must be seen to what extent that impacts citizens positively.
You know, Nigeria is 63 years now, and one will have expected that will have translated to growth and development, you know. But here we are. What do you think went wrong? Let's talk about some of the things that reshaped our journey, or some of the things that happened. Some people talked about the military intervention, you know, the first coup that happened that created like a form of distraction on our journey, you know, to democracy and all that. Talk to us. What are the factors over the years that have distracted us either from the vision of the founding fathers or has not made Nigeria to experience growth and development as expected?
All right, in spite of the military intervention in Nigerian politics, and the major challenge that has been canvassed over the years has been the leadership question, whether it be military or civilian regime. So core is leadership. Has our leaders, whether military or civilian government, been able to forge the national identity that we talked about to inspire economic development and growth on the one hand. Two, essentially the issue of corruption has always been a problem. Then ethnicity that we addressed earlier, religious sentiment, then ethnic politics, and the divide and rule politics that we inherited from the British colonial administration has been the bane of development in Nigeria. But can we remain with this problem? No. What is key is that to identify these various national questions and find a way to resolve these questions towards a way that we can see ourselves as one country, and so that our progress and development can be fast-tracked after 63 years. And I think, like I said earlier, we're full-grown adult. Therefore, we need wisdom in terms of leadership. We need wisdom in terms of galvanizing the various ethnic nationality for national aspiration.
Okay, even as we talk about the challenges that have bedeviled development in Nigeria, it doesn't necessarily mean that Nigeria has not recorded some gains. So in what area has Nigeria recorded growth economically and also nationally? What are the key milestones in the growth area for Nigeria over this past 6 decades?
Okay, well, within every sector, we'll have made some remarkable milestones. We are not where we should be, But then maybe about 20-something years ago, the telecommunication infrastructure is not at the level at which we see it now. In terms of infrastructure, we're not where we are, but there's some development. In terms of capacity building, there's some development. At the time we went to universities, there were fewer universities. You have more universities. Nigerians are blazing the trail all over the world. So to that extent, we can say we have come a long way. But then there's still work to be done. And we use this opportunity of the 63rd Independence Anniversary to call on Nigerians to work in the interest of the commonality of the nation so that we can be where we should be.
You earlier talked about the issue of leadership. Now, let's look at the way forward now, talking about the way forward. What do you think should be the narrative? Is it a need for us to change our leadership model? Is it the structure, or is it a mindset, or is it the template? What do you think we begin to look at now for Nigeria to begin to have proper leadership and then sense of direction?
I think it should be a holistic approach. Number one, the recruitment pattern into political leadership is faulty. The leadership competence, capacity is equally faulty. So we need disruptive leaders who see the country as one. This ethnic politics must be done away with. Two, the citizens on their part must be accountable as well. These ethnic cleavages that underscore political engineering must equally be reworked. So essentially, leadership should be more accountable, citizens should be more demanding, there should be more advocacy in terms of accountability. Then the recruitment into public office must be revisited if we really want to be where we should be as a nation.
Now, security is one challenge that Nigeria is still battling with. In fact, over the last 63 years, it's become a very big problem. How can Nigeria handle that moving forward?
Okay, security, again, has a direct relationship with governance. So key is the government must improve on key governance indicators. One is to reduce the multidimensional poverty that has engulfed the country. Two, people must find a way to get jobs because, as they say, idle hand is the devil's workshop, if I'm right. So the government need to find a way to pull people out of poverty, first and foremost, create an enabling environment where foreign investment and private sector investment can be aggregated so that we have some level of growth and development in the country. That, again, will reduce the level of insecurity. So, like I said, these are overlapping drivers of insecurity. Key, good governance is very essential to removing insecurity from the country.
We seem to have a situation where, like you acknowledged earlier, where powerful men, they hold the state to ransom, they hold the structure to ransom. Now, talk to us. How do we ensure that we strengthen our institutions or agencies of government whereby no individual will feel they are above the law or they will feel they need to comply to rule of law? How do we ensure a situation in Nigeria we have a structure where institutions are more powerful than individuals?
I think for me, essentially, is to have men with capacity and competence in institutions so that those who are in political authority do not have an overbearing influence in the institution. So capacity is very key. Then courage for those who run institutions, to run the institutions the way this institution should be. That, again, will be able to pull strong men away in terms of political influence that they have on the institution. So capacity is the key element in terms of driving strong institutions. Now, we're able to drive a strong institution, strong men will be at the backstage of development.
Okay, let's look at economic development. For a while, Nigeria has been talking about diversifying its economy, but not much have we seen in that aspect. Now, to have more revenue, because the government is currently battling with revenue, we've been having budget deficits for quite a while. How do we diversify our economy to the extent that the gains are much and we do not neglect other sectors? Because once Nigeria shifted from agriculture to oil, agriculture was neglected. Now, if we are to diversify to ensure that no sector is actually neglected, how do we achieve that?
In principle and in practice, the economy is diversified. To what extent this diversification impacts the economy, I think that should be the conversation. So I think there's a need to scale up the various sectors that make up the economy, more investment in the agri sector, more investment in the non-oil sector, so that more investment can come in to grow those various sectors. So the enabling environment, particularly the ease of doing business, is very essential for sustaining diversification of the economy. So we need to scale up the various sectors that make the economy. And government policies should be able to drive private sector investment. Private-public sector partnership should be able to grow the economy so that we get a level of the diversification that we talk about.
Let's look at the president's speech, because we're looking at the way forward now. And then if we're looking at the way forward, we have to look at the body language of the person who is our leader now, which is President Tinubu. Now, looking at some of the reforms he has started, in the last few months, do you think there's reason for Nigeria to give him a chance? He has asked Nigerians to endure. And then the other side to it is, if leaders are asking Nigeria to endure, what sacrifice or level of sacrifice are they ready to also give? Because the argument is, if you're asking me to do something, you should have started it. One would have expected that maybe due to the financial crisis we're having now, cutting the cost of governance will start from them as a way to show leadership. What do you think?
Well, there's a need to believe in the leadership, because in the last 4 months, Bola Tinubu administration has always found a way to communicate to the citizen in a manner that inspires hope. On the other hand, those who are in political leadership, particularly in the National Assembly, must find a way to look at some of their remuneration in line with the current reality of the country, and to see how they can make some savings in terms of the structure of the personnel that they work with, the wages and remuneration that they take. Then on the other hand, wastages in government must equally be addressed. In that regard, people will find a way that the government is serious with their promises that Nigerians should be able to tie their bet. They themselves should tie their own bet. Then what is worrisome, particularly from political leadership, is the way they spend money and the way they live their life. They need to be more circumspect in the way they do things, so that some level of discipline for national development is sustained even from leadership as well.
All right, so talking about leadership, now children are taught that they are the leaders of tomorrow. At the time that was being said, the youths of today were children then. So now they're youths, and to a great extent, they are still not leaders of the tomorrow that is saw, which is today. So how do we incorporate the youth into governance? For some who have been able to get into politics at party levels and then run for office, one major challenge is the economic factor that hinders some youth from being actively involved in politics and then coming to leadership. But how can Nigeria set a kind of a framework that enables youth participation in leadership?
I think there's already a framework, not too young to run.
Does it really enable active participation?
Yes, it does. What is key, like I mentioned earlier, there are key drivers or key indicators that will help youth in participating in politics. They need to build their capacities and their competencies as well. Two, they must, of necessity, be in the political space so that their contribution to leadership is recognized. So nobody gives you space in leadership. You have to loosely use, you have to fight for it, not fighting in terms of battles, making preparation, providing contributions, and finding a way to see you're within the space. So when opportunities come, then you're able to address those issues, in my view.
All right. What will be your suggestion to the president now, looking at the task ahead of him? What will be your recommendations to him as we wrap up?
Well, communication, he must walk the talk as well, and he must continue to inspire the citizens for a common national aspiration so that our common prosperity will be sustained as a nation.
All right. Sam Oruwije, thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. What a brilliant way to wrap up this discussion.
My pleasure always, Femi, and blessing.
All right. We'll go on a short break now, and when we return, the discussion will be getting bigger and better, and we're going to have another guest. Just watch out.
This land of mine.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria, a great country.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. God bless Suki.
Happy birthday, Nigeria. God bless this nation and every citizen in it.
Happy independence to my beloved country. I love Nigeria.
Today we celebrate the spirit of Nigeria's independence.
Yeah, we are Sister 3. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.
Happy anniversary, Nigeria. 63. We've come a very long way.
Regardless of what's going on out there right now, I'm very optimistic that there are better days ahead.
Don't look for somebody else for change. Let the change start with you. Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Hooray, Nigeria at 63 years. Happy birthday to Nigeria. May the glory of the Independent Day be with us forever.
Happy Independence Day. God bless my country, Nigeria.
Nigeria, my country. Nigeria, where the grass is always green.
Nigeria. Nigeria. We will sing.
Transportation is one of the most important sectors of every economy, and it is constantly evolving, impacting individuals and businesses. Think of a Nigeria where the roads are well maintained, the public transportation system is efficient, and the air and sea ports are world-class with a touch and feel of technology. While we are not there yet, there is a lot of exciting progress happening in the Nigerian transportation sector. Nigeria, a large and populous West African nation, has relied on various transportation modes such as road networks, railways, air travel, maritime transportation, and navigable waterways to connect its diverse regions and facilitate the movement of people and goods. One of the major modes of transportation that stands as primary is road transportation, which currently accounts for over 90% of both freight and passenger services. Its extensive road network presently spans about 200,000 kilometers, with ownership divided among federal, state, and local governments. The federal roads covers about 18% of the network and bears the majority of vehicular traffic. Its extensive road network presently spans about 200,000 kilometers, with ownership divided among federal, state, and local governments. The federal roads covers about 18% of the network and bears the majority of vehicular traffic despite varying conditions across regions. The state governments is 16%, while the local government own the majority at 66%, primarily earth roads. In recent times, there has been a concerted effort to enhance Nigeria's road infrastructure due to decades of neglect. Surprisingly, only 15% of the entire road network has been constructed in the past 55 years, which in every way is a critical obstacle to sustaining road development. This setback can be attributed to the abandonment of construction projects by underfunded contractors, poor or lack of project supervision. To significantly improve the distribution of goods and movement of people, substantial investment must be integrated into road infrastructure, thereby stimulating economic development in our country, Nigeria. Speaking to rail system, the significance of this mode of transportation has been undergoing revitalization and expansion since independence, thereby offering an alternative to road transport. However, it still faces underutilization and substandard infrastructure. While efforts are being made to upgrade existing rail lines and build new ones to ease the burden on road transport and promote economic development, a recent one was the creation of the Lagos Rail Mass Transit System on behalf of the Lagos State Government by Lagos Metropolitan Area Transport Authority. 7 lines were proposed in the network by Lamata, and they included red, blue, green, yellow, purple, brown, and orange lines, starting up operations with the Blue Line Rail System on September 4th, 2023. Another significant transport system is the network of major international and domestic airports, poised to largely enhance the sector's capabilities. It has 22 airports in total and 6 catering to international flights. Although there lies seen and unseen challenges hindering productivity within the system, hence improving air transportation from flight operations, technical related issues, customer service, and others can pave the way for effective and enhanced service delivery both domestically and internationally. On the maritime front, Nigeria's expansive coastline is a vital asset leveraged for trade and transportation. Major ports such as Lagos and Port Harcourt serve as pivotal hubs, managing a considerable portion of goods entering the nation. The significance of maritime transportation extends to both domestic trade and global shipping. It also encounters some ups and downs. One of the efforts to better the sector and amplify the movement of goods include ongoing projects like the construction of a new port in Lekki, Lagos, which is set to become Nigeria's inaugural deep water port, promising to further augment trade prospects. Despite the nation's transportation potential, challenges persist, notably since 1960. These hurdles encompass critical road conditions, traffic congestion, and underutilization of rail and air transport. The need for substantial investments and modernization in the transportation sector is evident to tackle these obstacles. This rejuvenation is key to meeting evolving transportation demands, ultimately fueling economic growth and bolstering nationwide connectivity. Nigeria is on the peak of transformative changes. Embracing its transportation strengths and addressing its weaknesses for a brighter future becomes inevitable. I am Damilola Ogunjobi, Suk News.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
Thank you for staying with us. It is still Early Exchange, and this is the Independence Celebration Special Edition. Now, we'll move on now to look at other aspects of Nigeria over the last 63 years. Thank you for that report, Dami Durodola, looking at Nigeria at 63. Now, let's look at good governance and anti-corruption. How is Nigeria done in this regard? We have in the studio with us Dr. Toyemi Bawundu, who is the CEO, Medway Health Limited, and is also a public affairs analyst. Welcome to the show, sir. Good morning.
Happy Independence.
I wish you same.
Wonderful studio with independent color. But I had expected Femi and Bessie will dress independent attire.
We're green at heart.
Yeah. Nigerians at heart.
Nice, nice.
All right, let's look at Nigeria over the last 63 years. How was pre-independence issues and even independence shaped governance in Nigeria? In your assessment, what can you say about good governance in Nigeria, beginning from 1960 and even when we had the military regime and then the civilian rule came back up in 1999 until date? What's your assessment?
Indeed, we had moved zigzag in a way that pre-independence, the trajectory was quite different. The colonial masters were actually looking at, they don't want to cause any strife so that they can exploit as much resources from the land as possible. So they want to actually give you that semblance of goodness and good governance, in quotes. But when the independence came, initially it was a healthy rivalry where the regions were competing for attention. Now you can see some regions going a bit ahead, trying to innovate and launch good products, as it were. And then suddenly after 6 years, the military came and the story is what we've seen now. I can say, categorically, the best of the governors we had would actually be those immediately after independence, when the regions were intact and they were still competing on their own. Secondly, the second burst came during the First Republic, the Second Republic, when the NPN, PDP, and NPN Action Group. Is it action? No, not UPN. NPN, UPN, and co came in, and then you saw the GNPP in Kano, and those people were actually driving their own core beliefs. So, and it was the politics of ideology. You know what NPN stands for. You know what UPN stands for. You know what Aminu Kano party stood for then. So after that, we found a way to push the politics together and to try to unify everybody. And lo and behold, when you unify people of different or disparate tendencies, you see this kind of pull aparts and the quality of governance started falling gradually. For now, good governance we have not seen. I don't care which indices you want to use. Do you want to use health services? Do you want to use education? Do you want to use employment? Do you want to use security? You want to look at food security and general security? Let's look at water supply situation in the country, or even road infrastructure. We're not seeing any of those things, at least to the level we expected to see. Not even in any region, not in any state in Nigeria.
63 years ago, Nigerians had high hopes that, years after Nigeria will blossom, will experience growth and development. And like you said, you haven't seen much of good governance. Talk to us. What are the factors responsible? What actually went wrong over the years, and why are we here?
Now, first and foremost, we may ask for independence. We may ask for freedom. The next rationale is that, what do you do with your freedom? What are you going to do with your independence? And this can be a recurrent thing in reality. People cannot tell me that Nigerians are poor. People cannot tell me that Nigeria suffered under one colonial rule. Those are not the reasons, because I can tell you countries of similitude that actually went under colonial rules, that actually suffered occupation. South Korea is an example. Went under Japanese occupation for 35 years, engaged in Korean wars, they fought their war, and then, lo and behold, Everybody sat down. No resources, no single resources. Everybody sat down and said, listen, we don't have resources. We have to be innovative. And if we want to be innovative, we must be able to have participatory government, good governance, democracy. That's why you see that even as a leader in a place like South Korea, if anything gonna miss, you are bound to resign. You can even go to jail. There's no big deal. There's no any protection against anybody. If you know that as a leader you don't have anything to hide, why? I will subject myself to go to jail if I misbehave. Then it's sure that I want to perform. So basically, the followership looks up to the leadership, to determine how they're going to act. And when you see your leader, who today is hustling like me, tomorrow get into governance and amass materials and wealth and ship all the money abroad and ship all the children abroad and get his health care system abroad. You are sending a lot of messages down line. So they want to replicate themselves at those lower levels. So, now when you start, the worst aspect of it is that when you start corrupting culture and spirituality of people, and then when you now sit down and say that, listen, I'm hanging my faith of that plain, clean governance in the spiritual institutions, you see, how do you get traditional rulers in your community? How do you get religious leaders? The corruption at that level, when you corrupt spirituality of people, you corrupted everything. They don't have conscience again. And then it's not just enough to give hope, you understand? You must be seen living the hope as a leader. You must be seen living the hope. So you see, first and foremost, we have leadership challenge, we have followership challenge, and then how do you explain, a greed of somebody taking 1 trillion, taking 500 billion? What does he want to do with that 500 billion? Or to go and hide it somewhere, right? So you see the pervasive corruption. It's not just about ethnicity that, because I'm this and that, because in reality, if you look at this stage now, we see a lot of people of different ethnic groups relating together, and managing yourself, an ethnic issue is gone behind the scene. When Nigeria is playing football, nobody thinks about whether you are north, east, south, or west. We think like Nigeria. So, but again, those are the things you need to bring up to unite us. You have to accentuate, those things that unite the country. But rather, when you are campaigning, it's about ethnicity, it's about religion, it's about those things we persist even after the campaign. So, in reality, the discourse at the national level is still so jejune, it's still so greedy, it's still so, short in form, that is not addressing deeper thinking, and how to actually deliver good governance to the people. And as long as Nigeria continues in this trajectory, anybody should wish for a good country. Don't let us, because my great-grandfather told my grandfather told my father told me Nigeria will be good. I'm still at Nigeria, I'm still telling my children, should I now repeat the same thing that is not really bringing results? If we continue like this, tell you what, Nigeria will not grow. First of all, let's be honest about that. That's the starting point of rethinking the nation.
Okay, in Rethinking the Nation, we have different anti-corruption agencies that were set up to fight corruption. But yet, we still have corruption happening in Nigeria at a high level. So what can be wrong with the system?
You see, first and foremost, when you don't believe in a system, you try to take maximally from that system. I can assure you, people don't believe in Nigeria. I will tell you frankly, and especially the leadership, they don't believe in Nigeria. If you believe in Nigeria, even me, when I was growing up, I had children of politicians, children of police head schooling with me. All of us were in the same school. Okay? They have to write the same. But now, at the slightest listen, they ship their children abroad. Is that they believe in the country? At the latest, when they are sick, they run abroad. When they want to buy clothes, they cannot wear Adire again. They have to go and start advertising, I don't want to mention any of those names. Even the content of the song, you can get the direction of any country when you enter an art exhibition and try to look at what is going on in the mind of this the artist. When you listen to a song, I say, what's going on in the mind of this person singing? When you look at your churches or your mosques and you see the dominant preachment in that church, you start figuring out what is going on. Those are the subliminal messages you have to pick to determine what, you know. So they don't believe in the country. Even if I don't speak like Onyibo now, you will be thinking that I don't understand English. Okay? So we don't believe in ourselves. The starting point is for the government to start galvanizing us to believe that this country can work. If we are talking about Renew Hope, the Renew Hope should start from the fact that, yes, I'm a Nigerian. I have no apology for that, and I must do everything to promote Nigeria. If you are doing everything to promote Nigeria, and you see somebody saying that let's alter this thing so that we can have money and go and keep in Dubai, you will say no, please, I have children and grandchildren coming. So we don't believe in the country. That is the starting point. When we start believing in the country, we'll be acting that belief. We'll be conducting ourselves in such a way to know that. Let me give you an instance. As far back as 2000, I stepped, I was in America, and somebody was asking me, and I actually wanted to stay, to study and stay. They said, won't you stay in America? I said, I cannot stay because Nigeria needs a lot of doctors. American, you have sufficient one. They need it. But I won't do the same now. That has become a point of regret, in quote, for me. Okay? When I was doing my postgraduate in Sweden, I was offered the opportunity to stay. That was 2004. To stay again. I said, no. Can you make me health minister? The woman laughed. I said, no. So what do I want from you again? If I cannot aspire to my, to my apex. So in reality, if you create a country that gives people opportunity, and you can help drive that, momentum, they will believe in the country. They will stand. They will fight. They will be ready to die for the country. America don't just become America. People are ready to die for America because what they believe that America can do for them. What do you believe that this country can do for you? You have to look for your road, look for your water, find your own health system, go and search for your school, run here, run there, borrow money, touch to beat you on the road, government will come and demolish your building. Why are you believing in that kind of place? So let's just be human. For instance, governance is not there's no humanity in governance. Let's be frank. And if you continue like this, the country will keep getting worse. Well, somebody will wake up one day and sell the country. By the next generation, they just wake up one day and sell the country to some another country.
Let's look at the issue of corruption. I've heard stories from those who were elderly about in the 60s. I wasn't born then, where for me to have been able to understand what happened. But I've heard stories, people talking about where honesty was the order of the day, You hardly heard about corruption, embezzlement, things like that. But now, what is the story?
There was. Okay. Don't let anybody tell you any story. There was corruption, but the skill, I think every country must get to a point where you must not pass through, where in what I would call a post-shame Nigeria, nothing shames us again. Okay? Something you will say, because in reality, it was anathema. If somebody who we know is pedigree suddenly appears in the village square with a jeep, with a big car, with a lot of, everybody say, please don't take his money. We don't know. You don't, please remember who your father is. Don't go and spoil my name. Leave that man alone. The man feels shame because there's no acceptance within the community, despite all his wealth. But now, of course, they will go and do Ashwebi and welcome the man to the village square, that you are the big man. And you that is struggling and thinking properly, they look and say, hey, what you do, what your education do for you? What are you to us? So as long as you keep that kind of narration, that you are moved to post-shame society, that nothing shames you again, that there's no limit to say here and no further, then you are in a roller coaster. But again, it has just become a culture now. And then for me, I have even been thinking, how do you deal with corruption? You have EFCC, you have ICPC, you have this, you have police, you have this SFU, all of them trying to fight corruption. It became difficult. And I've been thinking, can we actually use corruption to drive development now, since we cannot fight it? How do I mean by using corruption to drive development? Somebody took 1 trillion naira, took it abroad. Somebody took $300 million, took it abroad, and hide it in Dubai, hide it in US, hide it in UK. The money is hiding there, not doing. Supposing you took the money and said, please bring the money. We have infrastructure. We have road network. We have schools to build. We have health system to build. Come and invest in our electric grid. For investing it, take 1% of the thing. We will leave you alone. Maybe that is going to try to rethink the trajectory of really dealing with the corruption. Whereas we start plugging all those issues. But as it is, everybody, including me, that is looking for posts, that is in civil service, that is doing any work, including those guys working with you here, they are looking for how to game the system. Everybody's just looking for how to game the system. And I usually do this experiment. It's a social, it's a social science experiment, when people say, I need money, I say, okay, look, wait, I'm giving you $10 billion. How will you spend it? The person will first rant, I'll buy a house, I'll buy this, I'll buy that. I say, okay, all the money you spent is not up to 200 million. You still have 10 billion left. What are you going to do? Say, I will invest the money. I say, okay, after investing, you have gained. Your money is now $20 billion. How will you spend it? So in reality, you see that people desire things and they don't honestly think through why they need the thing. This concept of primitive acquisitiveness that I must grab. We should be able to address at the point of cultural, at the point of religion, at the point of traditional institutions. But those are actually the cesspool of that corrupt practices. So now, if we are fighting corruption at those levels where we cannot get it through, do we now start looking at how to use corruption for development? I don't know. You are the media people, because I don't know where to go next. If you know any other thing, if you say, come, go and shoot people, you have to kill everybody. And then they rally against you. You know the concept of Israelites, when they got to a point that said that, we used to eat meat, oh, where's meat again? Even they had freedom. They don't know what to do with the freedom. They were talking of their mouth. It has not changed. It still be our mouth. What do I eat? Oh, what do I eat? What do I eat? And they eat now, they get fat. And then me as a doctor, I'll prescribe to them, eat, leave alone. When they get to certain age, now leave alone, you go to chop, and water, you go to drink. So human beings are not, and it's our school system. Because in my head, I can relate all those things that has to do with good values. Those are cursory, those poem you put in your head, and you recite every day, everyone in the morning in the school. What is hard work? What is living life of corruption-free? We're imbibing culture. But right now, it is all the songs they are listening to, and they are dancing. So it's okay, but let the song elevate. We had songs those days, from everybody, and even the so-called fella that some people still gave us songs that actually motivate us to want to strive for an egalitarian society. But again, it's a lot of problem. Me, I'm not hopeful, let me tell you. I'm not going to tell my son that Nigeria is going to get better.
Why?
I have gone through this.
That's big.
No, I have gone through this. You can be hopeful. Nice. But me, personally, I'm not hopeful. Because every time we look at, say, by the time we change leader, things are going to get better. But look at the trajectory.
But the president has assured Nigerians now that with the present reforms that they should give him time. He's campaigning on the fact that he's going to bring renewed hope. So don't you think if you give him time, he's going to deliver and then make Nigerians happy again?
You know what? If I'm going to give you time, you give me the flow, the time frame, the flow. Low-hanging fruits, this and this, by certain time, this and this will happen. But for me personally, I had looked at it. We had a lot of hope that we're going to see much difference. But when you come and say that subsidy is gone, float naira exchange rate, and I knew from that day one, I started raising voices that it won't work. You don't just wake up and throw things. It won't work. There are processes to everything, and there's a graduation of making everything happen. What has happened to you are floating in naira when you don't have industrial base, when you don't manufacture anything, when unemployment is 20-something%, okay? When in reality, you import virtually everything. It won't work. It won't work.
Given the way that
I'm not an economist, but my grandpa has told me that, my grandma, sorry, has told me that economics is common sense made difficult.
All right, given the way the federal government is going about achieving the renewed hope, First of all, there were certain measures that were put in place, or certain policies that were made, such as the removal of subsidy, which is causing a bit of hardships, and then government is trying to cushion the effect. We also have the floating of the naira. But the President Tinubu has already said in his speech that is committed to some reform, fiscal reforms, to ensure that Nigeria economy grows. Now let's look at there's the Economic Advisory Council. Let's say the Economic Advisory Council is going back to its drawing board and trying to evaluate situations and putting things together. But you just you talked about things not changing or you not being hopeful. What would happen in Nigeria today that will ignite the hope of not just you, but every Nigerian?
You see, the eye is always on the North Star. The eyes, you know, we're focusing on the president. But first and foremost, you see, that kind of, what happens at that center will determine a lot of things. The change starts with you. The change starts with the president, or presidency, as it were. If you know that your economy is bad and you are appointing everybody possible, and you are having an overbloated thing, everybody will be looking at it. If you say the economy is bad and your what's it called, your convoy is 50 different vehicles and there's no fuel, everybody will be wondering what is going on. If you say the economy is bad and you see ostentatious living, because what else does a person who's gotten to the level of president, that's the peak of achievement within any nation, that I am the president, I am all the power, you know, and everybody will be wondering. So then the second thing is that you have to reignite that hope that you have renewed. It's not just by sloganeering. You have to ignite it. These youths are jobless. What are you doing exactly? They don't have hope in the country. How do you really talk to them? How do I enter the youth? Am I entering them through their religious belief? Am I entering them through the entertainment industry? What am I actually doing for them? Am I entering them through the educational institutions and ability to really create, to reward their creativity? Okay? Now, there are lots of things you can do. And you don't tell me that somebody is going back to drawing board. You must have your drawing board ready before you enter government. You cannot just enter government and say that you are going back to drawing board. So because when you are in the government, you must have sat down and look at those critical areas. What I'm supposed to do in this area, what I'm supposed to do in that area. These are the way we move the country forward. You know, then when things happen, what do we do? So, but for me, if you don't reignite people's hope, because if I believe in a cause, I can make a lot of sacrifice, renew hope, truly renew my hope. Give me assurance. Show me by act, not just speech. Show me by act that in really you are giving me an assurance. You know what should happen. Cut the cost of governance. Reduce ostentatiousness. You know, make this thing realistic. Be open in terms of your transaction. You know, at a point in time in this country, when I was in university, every month, a dear God will come and tell you the spending of the country. Again, it's a dictatorial regime. The guy will come and tell you that we made this, we spent this, we put this, we approved this and this. This is the state of the thing. But here in Nigeria, you see guys that we know, let me say, that we perceived having stolen money, different, some of them heading this parastatal, heading that, doing that. And then it seems that violence, disobedience, corruption pays. And then the second thing is that, you know, when God wanted to create heaven and earth, let me just be a bit of Christian here. I'm not really one. So the first thing God did was to say, okay, let there be law and order. Moon, stay there. Sun, stay there. Water, don't pass this limit. Leave, they stay here. Without law and order, you can't build any society. When you see people breaching your law and order rampantly and still walking around, that society cannot grow. Go and do anything. So the first, even my body is a testimony that law and order must be obeyed. Because I must sleep at a certain time, I must digest, urine must be made, and reaction must go on every time. Once you breach that, there's a disharmony. But when you see people trampling on your law and order and manipulating, so if you don't act your renew hope, if you don't renew the justice system, if you don't find jobs for these younger ones that are coming, you know, and give them new trajectory, which country are you going to build now? go and cut your excesses in governance.
All right. You were always talking about it, but let's still look at the issue of rule of law, because that's what drives, good governance. We have agencies of government, the judiciary. Even when it comes to corruption, you have EFCC, you have ICPC. Talk to us. Is it that the big men are more powerful than the system? How do we change the narrative where rule of law will be the order of the day and people will comply?
First and foremost, it has been shown that president in this country, once you have money and position, then anything can happen. That's not a country now. That's chaos. That's chaos. That's a wicked. Wicked problem is, the definition of wicked problem is a problem that when you are trying to solve one, it creates more problem. And that's what Nigeria is a wicked problem, as it is, as it is. Because you will see people, locals, conniving with kidnappers, conniving with abductors to say, okay, go and grab that person so that I can share part of the money. You will see it go right up to the law enforcement agents. We all know this now. I mean, it's not just assumption. So how do you want to build that kind of system? Okay? You see dishonesty at the highest point. Because at a point in time, if me as a president or me as a governor could find out that I'm wrong in this thing, I will come openly and do a broadcast. If I have to leave, let me leave. Because the country should be bigger than me. The system should be bigger than me. But what you see every time is that once I am a big boy, you drive cars, any car you want, you take your team, go on the road, even on the road. You wonder, where is this guy going? At the first, where is even the road? Where's the road? Have you seen any road in Lagos, for instance? You're in Lagos. Have you seen any road? Where's the road? From Epe to Aja, no road. From Ikorodu to down to Itokin, no road. Everywhere, no road. And somebody is on the road. For what now? I think there's what they call mass psychosis. You can have a mass madness in a country when chaos prevails. Nigeria is a chaotic situation. Go and put law and order. Even me, if I run foul of the law, treat me equally. And that's what you see in a country. Why would Trump be facing all those kind of things? Can that happen in Nigeria? Why would somebody go right ahead and mess up and embezzle? Somebody brought a fake plane, painted in the map of Nigeria and flew it back and said that's not here in Nigeria. And the guy is walking away enjoying his money. You think the younger ones are not looking? But if I were them, I would sell Nigeria. I would sell part of Nigeria. Let us be honestly. I will say part of Nigeria. Let's see how it's going to be.
But the citizens also have a role, because every time we talk about leadership, so what should be the role of citizens in ensuring that these ills we talk about do not continue?
You look like a Christian. Where at every point in time, is it not leader they choose for them? Is it not that they castigate? Is it not leader they remove?
But it also takes two to tango.
No, you see, leadership gives direction. That's why head is actually the head. It gives direction. It gives policy things. It shows examples. You cannot think, everybody talking about Singapore now, we have a followership. A leader directs followers. I said, this is the way this thing should go. And that's how it is in nature.
So let me rephrase. In ensuring accountability, in ensuring that leadership lives up to their role, what is the role of the citizen? Okay, good. The role of the citizen is to actually look at the leader and his direction and obey the leadership. Now, let me first of all clear a bit of your doubt. You think leadership is about, yes, head of president, this and no. Leadership occurs at different levels. In this setup now, the different levels of leadership. Okay? Now, maybe you are the news producer, you have to actually set some things in place. There's the CEO there. Leadership. So for you at your level, you are also a leader. Let's face it. And it behoves you to function as a leader in that realm. Not thinking that, not posting your duty to the CEO. Now, if you look at the country, there's, apart from the political leadership, traditional leadership are there, spiritual leadership are there, intellectual leadership are there, and then, of course, business leaderships are there. These are the level of leadership. Now, if you put somebody as the VC of a university, and not the guy could think of how to run after a small girl and then embezzle money, that's not the purpose of the president now. Okay? If you put somebody that, listen, no, this is
a park you have to manage, and the person start beating everybody, chasing them around. That's not the work of the president now. If somebody is the head of a church, and all he's doing is how to scam you and tell you fake prophecy, is that presidency? Now, all of us are leaders. Let us honestly, and that is why for me, I keep telling anybody, I don't need to read any holy book to know that I don't need to sleep with another person's wife. My mother told me so. It's part and parcel of my culture. By the time I'm going to jettison it, I'm disobeying the person I respected most in my life. That's my mother. She told me so. I don't need any Bible. I don't need to go to any church to learn that. So in reality, what we have done is to numb, our culture, our structures, in trying to create another one. So coming back to your question, all of us are leaders. All of us are followers. It's not a hierarchical thing. It's a cyclical thing. All of us are, at every point, we are leaders, and all of us are followers. Let's act like leaders, proper leaders where we are. And let's act, because even the president is a follower, because he's got to come back and get our votes in recent time. And when he buys the vote from us, we are compromised.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tuyemi Bawundu, for the very brilliant submissions that you've given this morning as we talk about Nigeria at 63. Femi, you've been quiet and smiling. It's like it's giving everybody food for thought when you said we're all leaders. And that's true. At different levels, we all exercise one form of leadership or the other. It just means that everyone should sit up to their responsibility and be the check for themselves.
Just like men are in sizes, leadership is in phases. So at different levels, you're involved in one leadership or the other. It could be at the local level, it could be at the state level, it could be at the federal, it could be in your church, in your local group. And like he said, everybody is a leader, and it's everybody's responsibility to ensure that Nigeria is better than what it is now.
Thank you very much for being on the show. We've been talking with Dr. Tuyemi Bawundu. He's the CEO of Medway Health Limited and is also a public affairs analyst. All right, let's go on a quick break and we'll look at other aspects of Nigeria. Stay tuned.
Happy 63rd Independence Anniversary to all Nigerians, and I think there's no better time as a people that we will need to reflect on the journey so far. Indeed, Nigeria is described as the giant of Africa, and so many people had referred to this giant as a sleeping giant. And as we mark this anniversary, every Nigerian must realize that the greatness of any nation is a sum total of the greatness of its people. And we don't need foreigners to help us build our country. We have to build it ourselves. And this will require us to imbibe some certain culture that will transform the way we do things in our environment. We need good values, good moral behavior. We need high level of hard work and productivity to really make the Nigerian of our dream. Our forefather contemplated it, and the honors and the baton is on our hands to realize the dreams of our founding fathers. And this requires a whole lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, and all hands must be on deck to support the administration to succeed. Because if the administration fails, all of us fail altogether. And we don't have another country that we can call our own, except this one that God had given to us. Nature has blessed us with so many resources, both underground and below the ground. We have the intelligence, we have the capacity. All that is required at this juncture is that we put behind us political considerations so that we can focus on development issues and talk things that are economical, things that are prudent, things that are responsible to see that the nation is on the trajectory of growth. And until all of us put our effort together, we may never reach the realization of the dreams of our founding fathers. And that is why this appeal is being made today on the occasion of our independence anniversary, that we should put all the differences behind us. Let's harness our diversity and use it to build a nation that all of us will be proud of, and our children's children will be proud of our efforts. The onus is on you, the onus is on me. We need people to support us in these efforts, but nobody will support you when you are doing nothing. And that is why our initial seed is required in this regard to make Nigeria a great nation through the giant of Africa. And I think this is possible. It is doable. We can, and we must do it at this juncture. Thank you. God bless you.
This land of mine.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria, a great country.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. God bless Suki.
Happy birthday, Nigeria. God bless this nation and every citizen in it.
Happy independence to my beloved country. I love Nigeria.
Today we celebrate the spirit of Nigeria's independence.
Yeah, we are 63. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.
Happy anniversary, Nigeria. 63. We've come a very long way.
Regardless of what's going on out there right now, I'm very optimistic that there are better days ahead.
Don't look for somebody else for change. Let the change start with you. Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Hooray, Nigeria at 63 years. Happy birthday to Nigerians. May the glory of the Independent Day be with us forever.
Happy Independence Day. God bless my country, Nigeria.
Nigeria, my country. Nigeria, where the grass is always green.
Nigeria. Nigeria. We will say.
This is Early Exchange, shaping policy, advancing development.
All right, the wise men are fully in the studio. I have one to my right and I have the other at my extreme left. So you've not seen Dr. Idahosa Osamanze today. You know, I call him doctor because I've told you before that his worth of knowledge, even a PhD, is like, let's manage this one, manage this title for now. We'll look for something else for you. Good morning. You're looking like a very proud Nigerian, Idahosa Osamanze.
I'm proud to be a Nigerian.
Okay, good to know. Well, Idahosa Osamanze is Director, Research and Policy, African Development Studies Center. And you've seen Sam Oruoje today already. He is back here in the studio. He is the Director, Research, Policy and Development, Femi Wash Limited, the owners of Sook News and Wash Radio. Happy Independence once again.
My pleasure to be here.
It looks like we planned the color for the color code for the day.
That's the telepathy that works.
That's it's good to know. I feel comfortable, more comfortable with you wearing same color with me than Femi. I don't
No, that's what you call unity in progress.
Well, at least we are representing the diversity.
Yeah.
Okay, like I said earlier, the wise men are in the studio, and that's because this is an area that requires lots of wisdom to make happen. We'll be talking about economic diversification of Nigeria. Has the country fared over the last 63 years in terms of economic diversification? And going forward, how do we harness the economy of Nigeria, harness the potentials inherent in Nigeria's economy to ensure that every sector that we seem not to be looking at, we look at them and reap the gains of that sector? I'll begin with Idausa. Now, over the last 63 years, Nigeria has tried to touch one part of the economy or the other. We have agriculture is still ongoing. We have the oil and gas and now mining. The telecom sector is there growing. But how do you think we've fared in trying to ensure that the potentials of all sectors of the economy, we are reaping the gains in the last 63 years?
I think as a people, there's something that we must obviously have to come to terms with. And these are the way we come by knowledge. It's very important. Because when you look at our epistemology as a people, there's something that is obviously wrong in the way we gain perspective on issues. Some people have come to a conclusion that because we found oil, we deliberately killed the agri sector. And I don't think that's completely correct. What for me had been the real issue, because we shouldn't be talking about diversification. Diversification of economy is not a policy issue. It's issues that have to do with creativity of the people, the ability to innovate. Let me tell you a very small story. In the 80s, we used to tap rubber in Edo State, and there was a real big economy around it. Those days when we tap rubber on a Sunday, you see people who come to buy the lumps. And then, of course, some people were even paying us money in advance. And then all of a sudden, we discover that, of course, they were no longer able to pay. And then we were told the story that then, of course, they shipped the rubber from our villages to the port in Sapele to ship abroad. And they said, oh, the one they shipped, they have not paid. The last one they bought is still in Sapele. The ship has not come to carry it. It took us a long time to realize that what was actually happening was that there was no longer market for the rubber outside, because the synthetic rubber was developed in place of the local lumps we were generating. And what happened? Parents discovered that the rubber plantation was no longer lucrative. So we felled the trees to plant cassava, which then was lucrative. And I think that happened also to cocoa. That happened also to groundnut. You used to use groundnut oil before we became using vegetable oil that is blended from kernel and the rest of it. Now, what really has happened is that there were shortages of innovation in our environment to invest in the value chain. So we have always been sufficient trying to produce and sell raw materials without adding values to it. This is the nightmare. And this is where you find that once crude came, what are we doing? We are shipping crude the way it is in its primary stage without adding value to it. So this lack of innovation, the lack of creativity in our environment is actually what is fundamentally responsible for the mono-economic outlook of the country. My view.
Let me take this to Sir. Let's look at the journey for Nigeria when it comes to economic diversification. For you, what will you explain actually happened? Because at the point, cocoa and some other things became the mainstay of the economy. Then oil came. Will you say that has been a blessing or a curse? Talk to us. What has been for Nigeria the journey when it comes to economic diversification?
Okay, thank you very much, Femi. Earlier in the morning, I mentioned that the concept of diversification already exists, and Dr. Idasa just mentioned that it's not a policy issue. I think the problem we had as a nation is that with the discovery of crude oil, people now de-emphasize investment in tree crops. They were the mainstay of the economy at that particular point in time. But in other jurisdictions, when they discover new products, there was elements of creativity in terms of the value chain of agriculture that existed. So the challenge here is that as soon as we discover oil, people moved away from other products, and then the products that were sustaining the economy were now ignored. To that extent, that now created a challenge in terms of the economy of the nation. But it's not a loss hope completely. Those sectors can still be developed in a way that we can grow the economy from non-oil sector.
All right, looking at growing the economy from non-oil sector, we talked about agriculture, which they also said the reason it seemed like the country neglected agriculture is shortage of innovation. But when we look at the ICT sector, we've seen a lot of innovation happen in that sector. So what's your take on that particular sector?
Well, we're leveraging on the ICT, and I'm not also very sure and certain that we have indigenous technology in that direction. And this is what Nigeria must realize. The fact that somebody is able to use the interface of a technology developed by another does not make that technology is yours. We must realize that as a people, that, you see, we must get to that point in our conversation to see what are the real discovery, inventions by us as a people. Because like they say, he who paid the piper is the one who dictates the tune. And this is again me throwing the challenge back to academic institutions. We should begin to produce people who are ingenious enough. We have them, people who can think. We need to democratize and liberalize our institutions of learning so that disruptive young men and women will be allowed to think freely, challenge assumptions, and bring new products to the table, which we can sell globally. It's just the way we are benefiting and reaping from oil at the same time now we're speaking to. He just talked about oil. And that's why when they say oil, was it a blessing or a curse? I don't think so. Even we have been led in terms of thinking in oil. That's why as we speak, we don't have a technology that can build a modern refinery that will be able to process crude, for example, without destroying the environment. That technology is not in existence as we speak. And that's why it has been very difficult turning around and maintaining these things, because somebody help you harvest the crude from the ground and they ship it. And like somebody said here on the studio last week, over 99 products can be made from crude. And the only benefit we get is just from simple crude sale. So the other benefit, the body they use in making cars today, they are from crude. They are making chairs from crude. And so many products that are coming from crude. We don't get those benefits. And this is what you get when your emphasis is just selling primary products or produce. This is the bane of the Africa. And this is why I feel that the problem with us is a problem that has to do with innovation and creativity. How can we begin to find people, for example, who are going to pioneer fresh technology, and then we can ship it abroad and actually earn good money from it? What we are doing is that we are only using what has been done elsewhere and localizing it here to make money. I read the Bible, and I believe also that, as it is said, what brings wealth to a nation is export, not import.
All right. Sam, let me bring you into this discussion. Dawza said lack of creativity and innovation. Do you agree with that? Is it just about innovation or is it beyond what he just said?
Essentially, it's about innovation and creativity. And creativity and innovation is a driver of development. So it's key. I agree totally with him. But beyond that, I think we need the right leadership to drive creativity and innovation for national prosperity.
Okay, but when we talk about innovation, somehow it looks like we do not have the capacity to be innovative. But globally, Nigerians are doing very well. When you look at the health sector, look at even the tech world, you have lots of Nigerians in the diaspora doing well. So what primarily is the issue that here in Nigeria we cannot have homegrown solutions?
Well, I think, yes, of course, Sam has spoken to the question of leadership. And just like the last speaker was saying, you see, leadership happen at different levels. And it is these levels of leadership that, of course, will cumulatively, come to what you will have as national leadership. So at the micro levels, we're seeing all forms of leadership. The biggest problem, I think, here, you see, we run a paternalistic society where the father is the only person right in the family. And this value affects our work. These values affect our government. Even in our days in school, I remember even doing a master's program in one of our university. And one of the professors said to me, you don't have a PhD, so you don't have a view. Oh, yes. Because I don't have a PhD, I don't have a view. That's absurd. This is the environment in which our children are learning. They are treated as robots because the professor is all-knowing. We cannot become creative and innovative in that environment. What transforms a nation is disruptive thinking, where we are able and allowed and given the freedom to challenge our assumptions, the things that we feel are right, and then we say, look, can't it be done in another way? Once we don't have that creative discontent as a people, we cannot get to that point of really, galvanizing what is within us or God has put within us to actually develop. And this is why, you see, when we go outside of this climb, people are given the freedom to think and do things. Because like they say, necessity becomes the mother of invention. If all I need to pass or have a degree is just to read what my professor has given to me, and then I get a good grade, and I come out with a first class, what else do I need? I don't need to think, because the professor has taught for me. This is a fundamental issue with our institutions of learning, and this is what we need to change for us to arrive at that destination, where we can have many people who can disruptively change the paradigms of looking at problems.
Now, the mainstay of Nigeria economy has to be the petroleum sector. Let's look at that sector now, because we're talking about the economy now. A few months back, the president had to remove subsidy, and then looking at the state of the refineries in Nigeria, it seems all hope is not lost, but the game changer has to be that of Dangote refinery. Now, how do we ensure that we change the narrative? If an individual like Dangote could come up with a refinery, and that's been Nigeria as a whole, we're looking forward to that. What does that suggest to us about the possibility of good governance if all indices are right?
Well, if you're following the conversation, you will discover that even Dangote is saying to you already, I don't want to produce petrol. I don't want to produce petrol. Why? Why do you think Dangote doesn't want to produce petrol? Because it is assumed at the moment that the free hand of the market is not allowed to drive that industry. And this is where we all need to do some just basic mathematics and calculations. Because this is a problem. If you're saying free market economy is what you want to run, then the market must be free. Take, for example, the new pump price we have been enjoying in the last 3 months or thereabout was set when the value of the dollar was pegged at 770 at both the parallel and the official window. Now, at the power market, the value of the dollar is almost 1,000, if not above 1,000.
Yeah, more.
Now, what has happened to the pump price of petrol? Has it increased? Is it reflecting the market price? It's not. What's the price of crude 3 months ago and what it is now? So that tells you that the market is not driving it. And nobody wants to invest in a project where you will not get profit. And this is why you discover that even the Dangote refinery we are all talking about, we had hoped that before now they are going to be in operation. They promised that in November, we hope so, that they are going to produce something. They cannot function because the control of the state, which all of us have come to accept, that you see, government had to find a way to intervene and continue to put in these social programs, will not allow these things to prosper. But you need fund to build a refinery, except that you want a PPP. And if a PPP is coming, then you must give them the free hand to determine the price of the product. Now, as we speak, nobody is doing mathematics for us as a nation. That in a country where we are spending 98% of our revenue to service debt alone, how do you build a refinery from 2% that's left in your revenue? How do you pay worker well? How do you build roads? How do you invest in education? These are the challenges that we face. And this is where every Nigerian, not just government, we need to remove the veil covering our faces so that we can speak to the numbers. It's only when we are speaking to the numbers, then all of us can be on the road to prosperity. As long as we are still speaking to sentiments and emotions, we are going nowhere.
Now, that's talk about infrastructure. We're not having the relevant infrastructure for us to harness crude. It will take us to our next discussion, but that will be after the break. So we'll look at the role of infrastructure for economic development. Stay tuned.
This land of mine.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria, a great country.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. God bless Suki.
Happy birthday, Nigeria. God bless this nation and every citizen in it.
Happy independence to my beloved country. I love Nigeria.
Today we celebrate the spirit of Nigeria's independence.
Yeah, we are Sister 3. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.
Happy anniversary, Nigeria. 63. We've come a very long way.
Regardless of what's going on out there right now, I'm very optimistic that there are better days ahead.
Don't look for somebody else for change. Let the change start with you. Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Hooray, Nigeria at 63 years. Happy birthday to Nigerian. May the glory of the Independent Day be with us forever.
Happy Independence Day. God bless my country, Nigeria.
Nigeria, my country. Nigeria, where the grass is always green.
Nigeria. We will say.
Many thanks for being there. It's still the Independence Celebration Special Edition on Early Exchange, and I have the wise man still in the studio. I'm talking about Idahosa Osamanze and Sam Oruje. So lots of wisdom is coming into the discussion today. Now, before we went on the break, we're looking at infrastructure as we look at economic diversification in Nigeria. And Idahosa Osamanze was leading a thought line that talked about Nigeria's inability to reap the gains from crude oil. And that speaks about value addition. We've not really explored the area of value addition. But what is the role of infrastructure to Nigeria being able to really diversify its economy through value addition?
Well, I think there's a whole lot that infrastructure should add to really the national question. But again, it's also to look at it from the point of view of those who are building infrastructure. I was speaking to somebody on the sideline earlier on. You look at government investment in infrastructure, almost on a standstill. I can tell you, Lagos-Ibadan Road was built for 23 years. And we are just about to hand over. And in the next 2 years, we will be building the same road. Because the material used are not good. East-West Road has been under construction for the last 23 years or more. There's no hope of completion. This is a challenge. So when you build one infrastructure and you are rebuilding that infrastructure for 23 years, how can it really spread? This is a big problem we also face in terms, I'm just talking about only road infrastructure, not to talk about the airports, for example, which are supposed to be the gateway to our nation, that severally contracts are awarded. And then, of course, the money line up the pocket of some people. And this is the issue we really face. What triggered development and create that macroeconomic stability in every nation is that critical investment in infrastructure. But infrastructure not in terms of building what you have already built. Because you're spending more money maintaining, so you can actually now do a green road. I can point, since 1976 till date, any green road that has been done in Nigeria, I can point to one. In other words, you are creating the road, fresh, removing the tree, putting asphalt. So what we have done since 1976, after Obasanjo's tenure in building major roads across Nigeria, we have been patching those roads, so we cannot build new ones. And this is where the deficit is coming from. And the reason is not far-fetched. Because the collusion between the private sector and the public servants to ruin the nation is what has brought us to where we are. If we genuinely invest in infrastructure and build quality and solid resource, and then start to expand it, that will create a whole lot of resources that will help redistribute wealth within the polity.
Sam, let's look at a country like UAE, who's part of what is driving the economy of that country is tourism. How can we replicate that in Nigeria? You know, that idea started with a leader saying this is the path to go. And then UAE, Dubai is just the hub for tourism now. How can we replicate in Nigeria, replicate that in Nigeria in order to diversify our economy?
Thank you, Femi. I think the issue of diversification must be put in proper perspective. The economy is already diversified. Scaling it up is a critical element. And essentially, as Dr. just mentioned, infrastructure is central to development. So tourism, on the other hand, for you to benefit from tourism as a way of creating prosperity for a nation, then the infrastructure must be top-notch. They must make adequate investment in terms of infrastructure for that industry. Two, we have the Tourism Development Commission or Corporation, whatever the name is called. We need to deliberately invest in that sector by creating ecotourism sectors so that we can drive development through those processes. But even where you had those kind of development, you had Tinapa and some other places, as we speak, those infrastructures are not maintained to generate the kind of tourism that we expect. So in addition to infrastructure, do we really have a deliberate policy in place to drive development from the tourism sector? These are the key conversations that we must have as a nation going forward.
Just to do the comparative analysis between Nigeria and the UAE, I'll give you two very salient examples from the UAE. Take, for example, the building sector, where you are having developers come to build. Because most of the buildings you see in the UAE, they're not built by the UAE government. It's public-private partnership. Now, what the government did in the UAE was simple. For those who are going to play in that sector, you said, oh, government had to give you land because government owned the land. And so government says, I'm not selling land to you. I'm going to give you land. Calculate it, and that translates into 24% equity holding by the government. So we give you land to build your house. So whatever rent or profit that is made from that, government takes 24%, because that's their contribution to investment. So you can see people go to the UAE and they want to buy land. Of course, when the real estate people were trying to rip off people, like you can see everywhere, government ensured that they put sanity in that area. And they said, now you can't pay money directly to a real estate company in the UAE, even if you are a private person buying property from the company. What you do, you pay to the Ministry of Land in Dubai, for example. And then, of course, you, who is the developer, have to show government that you are making some substantial progress before funds can be released to you. In other words, the government collateralized the investment of the investing public by warehousing all the collections. The money does not go straight to the developer. Here, what you have, people are selling land and say they are building home for you. 3 years, 10 years, you can't even see the house. And the developer are using the money to buy good cars and they are driving on the road. That is not happening in the UAE. So you can see tall buildings everywhere. Government owns 24% stake in it. So that gives people the privilege to come. And of course, you know that in the UAE, there's no corporate tax. There's no income tax. So what they do is that, so you can repatriate your profit 100% wholesale. And the government does not hold you. So that creates incentive for people to practice. They also have the concept of the Salik, which is the clean road concept. We want to build some clean road in the UAE, and this road will be tagged. Not the kind of toll gate we have here. They are electronic toll gates without stoppage. And citizens who register vehicle in the UAE have a tag on every single car that drives on the UAE. And on the Salik, you have camera that take those tags, and automatically the cash is deducted from your wallet straight to government coffers. There's no hand of anybody collecting that toll. It's electronically collected. And as we speak, Dubai alone gets over $800 billion on Salik annually. And this money is channeled into other infrastructure building. And this is the kind of things that we must be thinking about as a country, to see how we can be able to allow people to participate. And this fund come to the government we will use it to build further infrastructure. People get work. The economy is oiled and robust and is driving. And then, of course, we can see the common prosperity we are talking about. But as long as we are still doing this manual thing, we will not be able to really account for who paid to or who do not pay. And some of our roads are not paid. And therefore, we are all driving in bad roads. You can't find that in the UAE because the Salik had been, they did one road produced another one road produced. Now, what has it done? They have made so much money that they cannot even build more infrastructure in the UAE as we speak. Now they are exporting the money to build infrastructure in other places. That's why you find the Dubai Water and Electricity Regulatory Agency, for example, DEWA, is investing so much in India. They are building cold storages everywhere. They are investing in port and airport facilities outside because they have made so much money within, and now they are looking for where to put this money for investment.
Okay, this is one development model that we have seen work very well for the UAE. There are several developmental models. Why is it that Nigeria has not been able to adapt or adopt some of these development models to boost its economy? Take, for instance, manufacturing sector. We are still, to a great extent, import dependent. How do we move away with that? Are there certain models that we've seen work in other countries that we can copy? Maybe not in entirety, but perhaps tweak some part of it to adapt it to our own peculiarities.
The models are there. I think the question again comes to leadership and the capacity for people to take those models to work for their citizens. So I think the challenge here is that how do the leadership think about development with a view to using those models that are successful elsewhere. You replicate those models and you adapt them to your immediate community. So the challenge essentially is still leadership, the capacities to use those models to benefit the citizens. So the conversation is, to what extent is leadership ready to use those models that are successful elsewhere, adapt them to the immediate environment? That is what is the core issue that we need to take more seriously. What kind of public service do we run that can shape policy in line with new development agenda that are beneficial to our country? Those are the issues.
All right. Idauza, I would like you to talk about some of the critical sectors that can provide economic diversification for Nigeria. You know, apart from oil and agri, what are some of the critical sectors that can also bridge the gap for Nigeria?
I think Sam has already spoken to that issue already. We are already very diversified. Agric is there. We are talking about manufacturing, which of course some are happening here. Now again, even to compare with United Arab Emirates, the UAE, you know, really, UAE, they don't really pride themselves in producing anything. What UAE pride itself in is using their internal mechanism to determine the price of what is produced elsewhere. So you produce for the UAE market, they determine what the quality would be, they determine what tax they're going to impose on what is coming into UAE to make the goods competitive and within the reach of the common man. So their economy is driven by imports. But they are making substantial progress because of the way the policies are run. They remove all manners of encumbrances to ensure that whatever thing that, let me give you, for example, importation of cars into the UAE. There's only 5% duty on any car from arrival to reaching your park. No other collection. That's all. Now, when you compare that with what we are doing here, you see several impositions, facts that makes the cost of car really very exorbitant. So you find that because they bring in the car is cheap, people take it away from UAE and it's also cheap. And so it arrives at the airport cheaper. And that's why you see Benin has been doing to us over some several years now. So when you have a policy here, what they just do, they lower their prices down there. So it's easier to come in through the road into this place than bringing it through our ports. And I think those are the issues that where we really need to work on and focus on. So the manufacturing sector is critical. Take, for example, textiles. Look at Bangladesh. They're spinning and they are making clothes. That's what their economy is doing. And it's turning around, and the fastest growing economy in the world as we speak. So these are areas where we should do investment. Especially, we have not even explored the value chain of our even agric, for example. People come from Vietnam to Nigeria to buy cashew nuts. And if you go and check, what is growing the economy of Vietnam is cashew nut sales. They buy it from here, clean it up, and they bring it back to us, and we are buying them. You see, what they call it, ginger. Taking raw from Kaduna here, clean outside, and we bring it back into our supermarket and shops. This is where we need interventions. Where, of course, we are not just selling crude commodities or primary commodities to the international market. We start to add values to it and sell. Now, the mathematics has been done severally. You can imagine, for example, Cote d'Ivoire taking about 2 billion from cocoa sales, and the person who is converting it to chocolate is making 6 billion from chocolate sales. So that's a huge industry. And we've tried, Ghana have been trying to produce chocolate, but they've not gotten it right. And this is where I'm talking about innovation and creativity. So this, for me, is where we need to actually see, how do we invest in the value chain? We have not even explored agriculture. As we speak, I was saying to somebody just now, corn, ordinary corn in Nigeria is still on the essential commodity list, in which case you cannot export corn from Nigeria as we speak. And this is why, for me, it's really very painful when people say, oh, we don't have unemployment everywhere. We cannot even plant corn. That's how bad it is. There's so much market for corn in Africa, because corn meal is almost the food of the Eastern Africa. Last time somebody called me from Venezuela, I said, can I get 100 ton of corn? And I was making a inquiry, and they told me that, look, corn is on prohibited list. You can't export it because we need it to feed fowls and the rest of it in Nigeria. That we are even importing corn to feed fowl. That was how bad we have been as a people. So we have not even sufficiently exploited agriculture. We need to begin to look at this. Just imagine that Nigeria is exporting corn, just as Ukraine is exporting wheat. And we make so much value out of it. And this is the area where we need to look at. That people are just thinking that the only way people can work is until you pull a tie and go to work in the morning and sit in one office and operate a computer. That is the only way to define work in our environment. That is the biggest problem. I think that mind shift, that people begin to understand that work goes beyond really sitting in the office, is actually folding our sleeves and being where we should be in terms of manufacturing, in terms of added value to what we are producing from the farm, that they are not going out raw, but we are adding value to it so that it can access other international markets.
Sam, let me come to you now. Talk to us. How do we bring this message of diversification into the local level, whereby it is not just about the federal government, the local government is involved, the state government, you know, the situation we have now, you have local government and state government, depending on federal allocation, you know, there are needs to think about other sources. So how do we bring this message to the local level, whereby this issue of, you know, diversifying the economy is becoming a holistic approach from the local level to the state to the federal?
I think we need to invest on mind shift. Essentially, our challenge here at the moment is value addition, and Dr. has spoken to that exclusively in terms of how even citizens see themselves as partner in the development process. So we need to invest more in terms of a mind shift so that people can invest more in creating and adding to the value chain that sustain the various sectors of the economy so that we can benefit. And by benefiting, we can grow the national economy, in addition to increasing unshared prosperity, which are essential for development.
Sorry, it just spoke to that issue, and that just brings to my mind. Take, for example, I mentioned earlier on, we're planting cassava. What do we use cassava for? Fufu and eba. That's what we use cassava for at the moment. But cassava is a major source of starch, which is critical even to industrialization. How many of such processing do we have? So when people speak about diversification, let's diversify. You don't diversify. It's just looking at where there is opportunity and taking advantage of those opportunities. We don't need policy for diversification. All that we need to do is that local government, for example, can also be sourcing people who will invest in that value chain of agriculture for just people planting cassava alone and converting it to cash. You will see very soon, gari, eba, and fufu will be scarce because we don't have enough cassava to be able to do that. That's one area. Look at it. All our leather shoes, we have eaten it in the form of momo. Oh yes. This is the issue. Dairy production, milk, which is the simplest commodity anybody can have, just milk it from a cow. We cannot even. So there is so much we have not explored, and this is where we really need to speak to ourselves on the occasion of the Nigerian 63 independence anniversary. We all need to evaluate ourselves and stop evaluating government. For as far as I'm concerned, it is the collective prosperity of the population that translates into government prosperity. And once we are not doing well individually, it will be very difficult to see how the society itself really can make some progress.
All right, as we wrap up on this leg of the discussion, processing, which it also just talked about, for some industries is something that people can do locally and do not require much of technology or investment. But for the solid mineral sector, we've seen that that is not the case. It requires heavy investment. How can government incentivize investment in that sector? Because we're still doing it at the crude level, just mining certain minerals and exporting.
I think one is to do a systemic evaluation of all the various solid mineral resources and look at how we can improve on private-public partnership to drive those processes. Two, the ease of doing business, particularly in mineral exploration and exploitation, need to be improved upon. The Petroleum Industry Act has enabled frontier states to benefit from the exploitation of minerals. So government needs to find a way to see how we can drive this down to the citizen, and citizens themselves must take advantage of the opportunities that exist in the various sectors so that we can improve on national prosperity.
Thank you very much, Sam Oruje and Idausa Osamanze for talking to us about economic diversification in Nigeria. We're not ready to let the wise men go yet. We're going to quick break in and return to talk some more on a different issue.
Happy 63rd independence anniversary to all Nigerians, and I think there's no better time as a people that we will need to reflect on the journey so far. Indeed, Nigeria is described as the giant of Africa, and so many people had referred to this giant as a sleeping giant. And as we mark this anniversary, every Nigerian must realize that the greatness of any nation is a sum total of the greatness of his people. And we don't need foreigners to help us build our country. We have to build it ourselves. And this will require us to imbibe some certain culture that will transform the way we do things in our environment. We need good values, good moral behavior. We need high level of hard work and productivity to really make the Nigerian of our dream. Our forefather contemplated it, and the honors and the baton is on our hands to realize the dreams of our founding fathers. And this requires a whole lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, and all hands must be on deck to support the administration to succeed. Because if the administration fails, all of us fail altogether. And we don't have another country that we can call our own, except this one that God has given to us. Nature has blessed us with so many resources, both underground and below the ground. We have the intelligence, we have the capacity. All that is required at this juncture is that we put behind us political considerations so that we can focus on development issues and talk things that are economical, things that are prudent, things that are responsible to see that the nation is on the trajectory of growth. And until all of us put our effort together, we may never reach the realization of the dreams of our founding fathers. And that is why this appeal is being made today on the occasion of our independence anniversary, that we should put all the differences behind us. Let's harness our diversity and use it to build a nation that all of us will be proud of, and our children's children will be proud of our efforts. The onus is on you, the onus is on me. We need people to support us in these efforts, but nobody will support you when you are doing nothing. And that is why our initial seed is required in this regard to make Nigeria a great nation through the giant of Africa. And I think this is possible. It is doable. We can, and we must do it at this juncture. Thank you. God bless you.
This land of mine.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria, a great country.
Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria. God bless Sufi.
Happy birthday, Nigeria. God bless this nation and every citizen in it.
Happy independence to my beloved country. I love Nigeria.
Today we celebrate the spirit of Nigeria's independence.
Yeah, we are 63. Happy Independence Day, Nigeria. God bless Nigeria.
Happy anniversary, Nigeria. 63. We've come a very long way.
Regardless of what's going on out there right now, I'm very optimistic that there are better days ahead.
Don't look for somebody else for change. Let the change start with you. Happy Independence, Nigeria.
Hooray! Nigeria at 63 years. Happy birthday to Nigerian. May the glory of the Independent Day be with us forever.
Happy Independence Day. God bless my country, Nigeria.
Nigeria, my country. Nigeria, where the grass is always green.
Nigeria.
Happy 63rd Independence Anniversary to all Nigerians. And I think there's no better time as a people that we will need to reflect on the journey so far. Indeed, Nigeria is described as the giant of Africa, and so many people had referred to this giant as a sleeping giant. And as we mark this anniversary, every Nigerian must realize that the greatness of any nation is a sum total of the greatness of its people. And we don't need foreigners to help us build our country. We have to build it ourselves. And this will require us to imbibe some certain culture that will transform the way we do things in our environment. We need good values, good moral behavior. We need high level of hard work and productivity to really make the Nigerian of our dream. Our forefather contemplated it, and the honors and the baton is on our hands to realize the dreams of our founding fathers. And this requires a whole lot of innovation, a lot of creativity, and all hands must be on deck to support the administration to succeed. Because if the administration fails, all of us fail altogether. And we don't have another country that we can call our own, except this one that God had given to us. Nature has blessed us with so many resources, both underground and below the ground. We have the intelligence, we have the capacity. All that is required at this juncture is that we put behind us political considerations, so that we can focus on development issues and talk things that are economical, things that are prudent, things that are responsible, to see that the nation is on the trajectory of growth. And
All right, I did tell you that when we return, we'll be looking at another issue. This time around, we're looking at unity, and that's why we've united together. The persons you're seeing now, you didn't see them earlier, but they are Nigerians. Don't worry, they're Nigerians. It's strictly a Nigerian affair, and we're here to cut the cake, celebrating Nigeria at 63. Well, we know that the colors of Nigeria are green and white. White talks about purity. In this case, we can call it transparency. It's a collective effort to ensure that we're transparent in everything that we do, and we're honest as well, because without honesty, we cannot build Nigeria. And green, of course, the land has always been green, Nigerians. Yes, I know that the Japa syndrome is very much higher at this particular time, but the land has always been green. And as Idahosa Osamanze often says on the show, is that there are no green grass anywhere. It's only that the people water the grasses. So this is a call for all Nigerians to nurture the green land in Nigeria with our collective effort, with innovations, with honesty, with unity, and of course, we begin to enjoy the gains of Nigeria. So we will cut the cake celebrating Nigeria at 63. And I have Idahosa, I have Femi, I have Grace Kamalafe, and we have Chooks, John Burgess, we have Sam Uroji, and our honorable guest who's with us to celebrate Nigeria. So at the spelling of Nigeria, we will cut the cake. And don't worry, we'll Bluetooth yours to you wherever you are. So can we go? Let's have an N.
N.
I.
G.
E. R. I. And A. Nigeria.
An applause for Nigeria.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. When you see a 63-year-old man, when you want to greet him, you know now we're people of respect, you genuflect. So we have to respect Nigeria.
We are becoming grandparents.
Oh yes, oh yes. And then that's been the show. I told you earlier that you need to stay for the rest part of the show because it will be a wild show. We show delivered on the promise, and so we'll leave the stage now so that Business Insight can come up at 10 a.m. Remember to join us tomorrow for another edition of Early Exchange. 7 a.m. West African time will be when you can join us. I said you can thank me later. Don't worry about the things I'll leave it. Don't mention. I am Blessing AEG.
Don't forget the Independence Special continues after now with Business Insight, and shortly after you have Chooks and Grace to take the other segment of this business of the special program. I am Femi Ayodele. Bye for now.
Bye.
Of mine, Nigeria on my mind, born in diversity, blessed beyond compare. Ooh, through these 100 years, our struggles and through our fears, we're strong in our unity. Peace, our destiny. Here we are, standing tall. We're standing tall. We are one. We are 100 years of unity. Nigeria, we will stand. Oh, this land of mine, Nigeria, on my mind, I pledge to you my loyalty, my love, my ability. Ooh, and as we celebrate ourselves, we shall rededicate to serve a new Nigeria, for a better land for all. Here we are, standing tall through adversities. We are one. one country.